Today I'm joined by a former Scotland international who played for a whole host of clubs including Chelsea, Sheffield Wednesday, Wolverhampton Wanderers, Manchester United and Southampton. He famously played for the Saints team that beat the Red Devils in the 1976 FA Cup final. I am of course talking about the one and only Jim McCalliog.
Hi John, nice to be on the show. I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, Jim. Welcome to the show. I wanted to get you on to talk about your upcoming book, which we'll talk about shortly. But first, we have to say a few words about our good friend Denis Law, following this week's very sad news that the lawman is the latest ex-footballer to be diagnosed with dementia. Denis, of course, has written the foreword to your book, so that underlines just what good friends you are. So I'm wondering, how big a shock was it when you heard the news about the lawman?
A terrible shock, John. But I'm not surprised by Denis coming out and speaking about it, because Denis is a wonderful human being, and even in his time of need, he's still thinking about other people by coming out and helping to bring attention to the condition that he has. So I think it's absolutely wonderful. But Denis, he was such a hero of mine, and probably everybody in Scotland when I was younger, and he's a lovely guy.
I know you're very proud of the book. I can see it. We can see it there. Just tell us. I know you made it quite emotional, the fact that the lawman wrote the foreword for the book. Tell me about that.
Yes, I rang up Denis and I asked him if he would do me a great favour, and would he do the foreword for the book. And he says, with pleasure, son, not a problem. And when he said that, I just burst into tears.
That's amazing. I know. I remember the last time I actually saw you was a reunion of the that famous Scotland team that claims to be the World Cup winners, because you beat the 1966 England team at Wembley, and it was a fantastic game. And you and Denis both scored, of course, along with Bobby Lennox, and that was a fantastic evening. But just obviously that was probably one of the first big occasions that you remember when you would have played with Denis Law, I guess.
Yes, I only played 3 times with Denis, sadly. But the 3 times that I played with him, I cherish it. And like I said, he was such a big hero. I remember as a kid going up to the National Stadium at Hampden straight after school, when they used to play games on a Wednesday afternoon back in the day. And it was fantastic to go up there. And I remember one particular game where Denis scored 2, and it was a World Cup qualifier against Czechoslovakia. And of course, to a little Scottish boy like myself, it made him an even bigger hero.
I remember that night up in Aberdeen at the Marcliffe Hotel, and it was a very emotional occasion. Even me being English, I kind of felt Scottish almost for the night, because I was surrounded by these jubilant Scots guys, and it was almost like it was yesterday. I couldn't believe that you had such amazing memories of what happened 50 years earlier, and it really underlined it for me, the rivalry that I used to have between England and Scotland. I kind of miss those England-Scotland games, and hearing Denis talk about the rivalry with he couldn't go back to Old Trafford and face Bobby Charlton and Nobby Stiles if Scotland had lost, so you had to win, didn't you?
Yeah, this was the case, but at least Denis had a few Scotsmen in the team, whereas I was at Sheffield Wednesday, and I was the only Scotsman in the team. So of course, when England won the World Cup, I got a lot of ribbon from the boys, but it was all good banter and a good laugh. And of course, when you play against England, there was so much at stake, and especially for the Anglo-Scots like myself and Denis, you had to try and do as much as you possibly could to get a correct result. I mean, a draw was okay, but a win was utopia. So fortunately for me in my first international, we got the win 3-2. So it was a fabulous day for me, my family, and for my football club, Sheffield Wednesday. And I'll never forget the day. And I talk a lot about it in my book, and go behind the scenes and let people know how I was feeling as a 20-year-old. I was quite lucky, John, because I didn't suffer from nerves a lot. And I felt really confident. I looked around at the Scotland camp, and there was some great footballers in our team. I know England had great footballers as well, and it was an amazing triumph to win the World Cup at Wembley for England, and it did the game a power of good. It certainly boosted the game. So, it was all good banter and all good fun. But like you say, everybody wanted to probably like a derby game. You wanted the bragging rights, John. So yeah, it was great, fantastic times.
I mean, you played in what I call a romantic era, really. I grew up watching Best Law and Charlton. I remember the 60s and the 70s, particularly the 70s. And football's changed such a lot. I mean, it's really fascinating to read books by players from your generation because it's a great reminder of what football was like. And I guess it starts with you being a youth team player at Leeds. Is it all about the career?
Yes, it shows you on the book. It shows you on the spine of the book. It shows you my clubs. Chelsea. This was from being a professional, but like you say, John, I was at Leeds first of all, and when I was 15, me and Peter Lorimer played for Scotland Schoolboys together, and we went down to Leeds United with Don Revie at the beginning of Don Revie's revolution for Leeds. So I'm in at the beginning when it all started. So there's lots to talk about. And just to give you a little taster, I remember we were on the car park at Elland Road, and Don Revie was talking to me and Peter Lorimer, and Billy Bremner came over, and Billy at that time was a bit frustrated, and I think he was a wee bit homesick, and there was a big offer in from him from Scotland, and it looked like he might be leaving Leeds. But I always remember Billy saying to me and Peter, "Why have you come here when you could have gone to any of the clubs in England?" And it kind of gave me a little bit of a jolt. And I thought, my goodness, if Billy Bremner would have left then, what a different team and what a different spell maybe Leeds United would have had uh, back in the 60s and the 70s, John, because he was definitely a vital part of Leeds United's success and a wonderful guy as well.
You mentioned those famous names, Jim, and as a Man United fan, Leeds is a team that we one of the teams that we like to hate, but it does bring back very vivid memories, and you realise how lucky we were at those times to see these great players and these great teams, because in those days the teams didn't really change so much. You go away on holiday and you come back and you still have the same team almost, and it's very different now, isn't it?
Yes, it's different. There's a lot more members in a squad. It's squad football now. It doesn't seem to be so much a team game in reserves. But then again, that's the way of the world. It's a different era now to what it was back in the 60s and the 70s. But I can certainly remember before I ever played for Manchester United, and I was at Sheffield Wednesday. And when Manchester United came to play you, it was like the circus had come to town because the crowd was there, the atmosphere, it was a whole new ball game. And I thought what it would be like to be a Manchester United player. That's the kind of situation you would be in as a player. Everybody would be coming to the match, even people that perhaps never went to any of the other games. But when Man United was in town, everybody wanted to be there. It was such a glamorous club, had such great footballers playing for them, and good guys as well. A lot of the guys back in the day, they would always talk to you and they would always encourage you. And it was a great time for myself and a lot of other young players to be in football. Um, and of course, two of my heroes was at Man United, i.e., Denis Law and Pat Crerand from when I was a schoolboy and watching football in Scotland. But then Man United, in my opinion, had the greatest player that I've ever seen, and that was George Best. George was just something else. for to go in a team at 17, 18 like George did, and the team consisting of Denis Law, Bobby Charlton, and Paddy Crerand, you had to be something else to just actually play. A lot of younger players would have been a lot nervous to play in that kind of company. But George got on with it, and as history tells us, George was a great player for Manchester United.
That's wonderful to hear, Jim. And as a Manchester United fan, it's great to hear you speaking with such passion about those great heroes, because you're almost saying the things that I would be saying about those players that I grew up watching. And I was lucky enough to make films with all the guys that you just mentioned. And I did the Paddy Crerand story, in fact, and what a character he is. But one of the things I have to say about you, Jim, even though you played for quite a few clubs, is you're very much loved by Manchester United fans, and you've always felt a good connection, a strong connection to Manchester United.
Yes, I feel that, and a lot of people have been very kind, especially on social media. But I thoroughly enjoyed my time at Manchester United. Sadly, it wasn't long enough for myself, but that's all in the book. It will tell you maybe perhaps the reasons why I left Manchester United. But of course, I'd signed for Tommy Docherty for the second time. So that always adds a bit of spice, because Tommy Docherty, for all that people might say about him, was a very shrewd manager. He was ruthless when he wanted to be, but he certainly encouraged his players. And I never ever seen Tommy Docherty downbeat. Even when we were getting relegated, he was still upbeat. And of course, he come out with the famous words, "We will come straight back up." And as he did with the cup final defeat to Southampton, he said it then as well, that they would win the FA Cup the following year. And both of these things that he said came true. So his words you had to listen to, but it was good fun too. I had a lot of up and downers with the boss, but I still respected him. I'm sad that he's gone, he's passed away, because football needs characters like Tommy Docherty. And my spells at Chelsea and at Manchester United with Tommy Docherty were great times, and I've loved recalling them and putting them in the book. But the other thing that is also in the book, John, is that I was supposed to go to Manchester United right after we played the England match at Wembley, and it was in all the papers that Manchester United were going to sign me. Sadly for myself, it fell through. But then, of course, 7 years later, I got to Manchester United. So I love the club. I loved everything about it. It was a fabulous experience. And what really set it all off was when we went down the following year, the fans came out in the thousands. They really did. And I remember when we played the first game of the second division, and that was also my first game ever in the second division at Orient. There was thousands outside the ground, and that's the way they continued all that season. And it was like a goal start all the time. So hats off to the fans.
Just hearing you speak there about some of those memories, it's actually getting me very excited about reading the book. And just to underline what you just said there, so 1967 was the year, wasn't it, when you beat England? So you could have been in that European Cup winning team and playing alongside George Best and Denis Law and Bobby Charlton.
Oh, I could dream, couldn't I, John? That would be amazing. I mean, my best pal had the thrill of playing with Dennis, Bobby Charlton, and George Best, and that was Willie Morgan. Me and Willie's been good friends from '67 when we went on tour with Scotland. And I often said to Willie, I would have loved to have played in that forward line with the four of you, because they were very exciting, and players that could get you off your seat, John. That makes a big difference. Players that did something extraordinary on the field, and wonderful to watch, and wonderful to play against.
We've spoken a lot about Manchester United, and I can never get bored of talking about Manchester United. But tell us about some of the other clubs. And you obviously had a special relationship with all the clubs that you played for.
Yes, I'm thrilled and honoured to say that all my ex-clubs have got on side with me as regards the book, and I'm looking forward to going to Chelsea, to Sheffield Wednesday, to Wolves, to Manchester United and Southampton. And I'm also going to the National Stadium, which is another big thrill for me, John. There will be an event at the National Stadium. So everybody that I've played for, they've all, like I said, they've all come on side with me. And it's absolutely wonderful. I'm so I feel so lucky that they're all getting behind me.
So you obviously got quite a few book signing sessions, and I just wanted to give a particular shout out for a friend of ours, Billy Hunter, because you're doing a signing session at his pub, the Clermiston, on September the 3rd. But how many signing sessions have you got? And is there any other ones that you want to give dates for so people can look out for them?
The dates are not 100% at the moment, John, but I will be putting a post up later, probably today or over the weekend, to give people an idea of where they can get the book. Besides, we will also be putting on a post for the pre-orders, so people can order the book, but they will also know where I'm going to be at a certain time. So I'm really looking forward to going to see the fans at Chelsea, at Sheffield Wednesday, also at Wolves. Wolves was a big club for me, and a big club in the history of football. Fantastic fans that are down there. You know, had a real good feeling for the football club. But Sheffield Wednesday, as a young boy and being transferred for a British record fee at that time, Sheffield Wednesday fans were amazing. They really encouraged me. I was only 19 years of age, and they got behind me. And of course, a wonderful time I had with Chelsea when I thought should have won the treble. We were in contention. I was only 18 years of age, but I was in the squad, and we were in contention back then in 1962 for the treble. We were in the semi-final of the FA Cup. We'd already won the first leg of the League Cup, and we were in between ourselves, Manchester United and Leeds, for the title. So their clubs, Chelsea and Sheffield Wednesday, had a big bearing on my career in football, as did Leeds United with Don Revie. When I think about it, Leeds United, there were four players at the club who became either the coaches or the managers, and they had won the Player of the Year. Don Revie had won it, Sid Owen, Bobby Collins, and Billy Bremner. All these guys, and I was getting advice and helpful hints about playing in midfield off of Billy and Bobby Collins, and also Don Revie. So the people that I've come across in my football life, great football people, some great players, great rivalry with a lot of teams, and of course a lot of teams that I played against, and it was a privilege to play on the field with some of these guys.
Absolutely fascinating. I think it's worth underlining as well what a big club Sheffield Wednesday were, and playing at Hillsborough must have been a fantastic atmosphere back in those days. I remember going to a couple of semi-finals in the 70s there, and it was a fantastic stadium when it was full. It must have been a great privilege to play for that club. Who were the players that you remember from that era, and any particular games?
I've been very fortunate, John. I've got players who have put testimonials in the book from all of my clubs. And from Sheffield Wednesday, Don Megson, the captain, has put in a testimonial. So has Peter Eustace, a midfield player who I thought should have played for England. I'm just at a loss why he never got capped. and of course David Ford, who played up front, and it was another player who I thought should have been capped by England as well. I know both Peter and David played in the under-23s, but sadly for them, the full international cap, it didn't come along. But you know, great players to play with. We had a really good side, a young side at Sheffield Wednesday, because the manager Alan Brown believed in youth, and he was certainly on the right track with what he was doing at Sheffield Wednesday. But sadly for me, he decided to go to Sunderland, which was a club that was pulling at his heartstrings. And I just wish he'd have stayed at Sheffield Wednesday, because all the players had a lot of time for him. At times, Sheffield Wednesday kind of, in my opinion, looked to have the best ground in the country, whereas at times I wanted them to buy some more players and have the best team in the country. And I fell out with the general manager, Eric Taylor, who I thought was more interested in, like I said, the ground than the team. And I thought they should have made more money available for the team. I talk about this in the book because the club meant so much to me. Sheffield Wednesday, they were great fans, and I just didn't think that at board level they matched up to the support they were getting off the field.
It's interesting that we're still having these discussions about, do you spend the money on the team or the stadium, and it's not really changed, has it, Jim? But let's move on to Wolverhampton Wanderers, another very successful club in the 70s, and a club with a proud history. Obviously, you enjoyed your time there as well, didn't you?
Yes, Wolves was a team with great traditions. They had been in European football before anybody back in the 50s. So it was a very famous club and a great club to go to. The chairman there, Mr. Ireland, he had the opposite view of Eric Taylor at Sheffield Wednesday, because Mr. Ireland had a plan for a ground to improve all the ground at Molineux, but he decided in his wisdom that he wanted to spend the money on the players. So kudos to Mr. Ireland for having the sense to build a team, and we were a good team, John. We were not far short of taking more honours while I was at Wolves. We got to the UEFA Cup final. Sadly, we lost 3-2 in aggregate in a two-legged final to Spurs. But over the two games, I thought we were the better side. We did win the League Cup, which was fantastic for the fans. And we lost out in a couple of semi-finals of the FA Cup. So we were very close, and we were a team to be respected. But we had a lot of good players in our team. So it was a very thrilling team at Wolves, and we were very, very close to winning quite a few trophies.
And then, of course, you had that year at Manchester United, and you must have been a little bit frustrated, really, because you didn't really land at Manchester United at the right time, did you?
No, I couldn't have landed at Manchester United at our worst time. I think we had 11 games to go, and we were bottom of the league. So it was going to be all or nothing, really. So the thing was, when I arrived at Manchester United, quite a lot of the players, they'd lost a lot of confidence, because sadly for my teammates, they'd lost a lot of games 1-0, and it was pretty tough for them to take. And of course, when you're losing quite a lot of games, it can become a bad habit. And the confidence when I got there was very low. So my thoughts really were to get on the ball and knock it about, and slow the game down a little bit, because when I looked around the dressing room, there was a lot of internationals in the dressing room, but for whatever reason, possibly because they lost a lot of games 1-0, things didn't go for them. But Tommy Docherty, like I said, he was always upbeat. He kept everybody going. And as it happened, it all turned out right in the end. But going to Manchester United, I remember in my car driving to Manchester, and I don't think there was a happier person in the world than me at that time. And when I got to Old Trafford, God, I was just so happy to be there.
Fantastic. Obviously, the low point would have been that infamous day when Denis Law scored that back heel, symbolically putting United down. We didn't actually put United down, as Denis will always be the first to say. And I seem to remember somewhere, I think I saw you speaking about afterwards in that game. Did you end up, consoling Denis after the game?
Yeah, after the game finished, I was probably one of the first off the pitch because the crowd came back on the pitch, and I got in the dressing room, and there was nobody in the dressing room but Denis Law in our dressing room, and Denis was still in his Manchester City kit. He was still in the blue and the white and his socks and his boots. And I went over to him in the corner and we just had an embrace. And I said, "You okay?" He said, "No, not really." And we just sat there. And I was fearing the worst when the boss come in because Denis and Tommy Docherty, they're quite fiery characters. I thought, I hope nothing happens here, but I stayed around just to see what would happen. But in fairness to Tommy Docherty, he come in the dressing room and he seen Denis in the corner. He never said anything. He just walked over to Denis and he shook hands with Denis, and then he carried on talking to his team. So it all turned out well, but it must have been a funny old moment for Denis because Manchester United was and still is a big part of Denis's life.
Absolutely, would have been fascinating to be a fly on the wall at that moment. And as a Manchester United fan, we all loved the Tommy Docherty era, but many of us will never forgive Tommy Docherty for the way that he got rid of Denis Law. And I know it's a difficult thing to talk about, but how did the players feel about when Denis left the football club?
Well, I wasn't actually there then, John. He had gone the season before. So obviously it was a shock to the club. To the players and what have you. But sadly, the football's football, John, and football moves on. And like I said, people probably don't like Tommy Docherty because he did that. But Tommy Docherty, besides being an upbeat and a real character, he could be pretty ruthless when he wanted to be. And I got that as well because it was a bit of a shock for me when I left Manchester United, and that's football, John. It's you just got to move on, and of course, Denis moved on to Manchester City.
And of course, you moved on and you kind of had your moment, didn't you? Because of all teams to play in the FA Cup final in '76 for your new team, Southampton, it was Manchester United. So that must have given you a lot of pleasure winning the FA Cup with Southampton against the club that you kind of had so much passion for as well.
Yeah, the thing was, I'd played in the cup final 10 years previous, John, and in 1966 with Sheffield Wednesday, and we were 2-0 up and we lost the cup final 3-2. That was for a 19-year-old, that was probably the worst moment in my football career. And, to go back there 10 years later with Southampton, and we were underdogs, but I couldn't see the reasoning behind that because we had a lot of experience in our team. And I think little Lou McCarry hit on it later, and he said that Man United were a young and upcoming side, but Southampton had the experience. And I think the longer the game went on, I think it was always going to go our way. And Wembley's a place that finds out some players at times. Some just they can't rise to the occasion, but some other players can rise to the occasion. And I think we rose to the occasion that day. I think after 20 minutes, we were well in the game, and I think we deserved to win in the end because, like I said, they were very much the up and coming team, and they were a very fit team, and they'd done brilliant in the first division. In fact, at one bit it looked like they were going to win the championship, win the league, and that would have been quite amazing to come out of second division and win it again, win the first division the following year. So yeah, it was quite a day for myself. Uh, Obviously, winning Wembley in the cup final is what you dream about from being a kid back in the Gorbals in Scotland. I would watch the FA Cup final from probably about 10 o'clock in the morning until it finished after the game, late afternoon. So it was a great day for Southampton, who have never won anything of that kind of standing. But in fairness to the Southampton supporters that day, they were absolutely magnificent. They cheered for us the whole way through, and they kept us going. And the thing was, I think maybe Manchester United might have underestimated the quality of some of the players that we had, because you don't get many better players than Mickey Shannon, Peter Osgood. They were two big players, and they helped the other boys during the week before the final, and calmed them down on the final as well. So it was a fabulous day for Southampton fans all round.
Absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there, Jim, with a lot of things you said about, it was a big shock for football fans and especially for us Manchester United fans, but it's worth remembering what a good team Southampton had, and you had some good players there. But I feel looking back though, it was actually the sort of kick in the pants that United needed, and we came back stronger because obviously we won the FA Cup the following year.
Yeah.
You would obviously feel quite happy that United came back strong after being beaten in the cup final by Southampton.
Absolutely. We were ecstatic. I was out in America then, so there was Billy Folks, who was my coach out in Chicago Sting, and Billy's was a Busby babe. Smashing guy was Billy, and Willie Morgan was also playing for the same team, Chicago Sting, with myself. So there was three Man United fans. Couldn't wait to get the news of the cup final to see if United had beat Liverpool. And of course, when the news come through, we were absolutely thrilled, and I'm sure we had maybe a half a lager on the strength of it, John, because it was good that they'd come back. I mean, I was happy I'd got my medal the year before. So if any other teams that I would have wanted to win the cup final, United would have been up there.
In many ways, Jim, you've had an absolute dream career. You've had so many memories, and you've probably got enough to fill two books. But just before we sign off, I'd like you to sort of just remind us about the book. When's it available, and what's it called? And maybe you can show it us again, and you can sign off.
Yeah, that's the book there. It's Wembley Wins, Wembley Wars, and you can see it. And this is the walls on the back. This is what it feels like there's me as a 19-year-old losing the cup final. And then if I move it along a bit more, am I doing it the right way? There
That's
you
good.
are.
That's all good.
You can also see my magic moment when I scored in the cup final. That was after 4 minutes, and also you can see the testimonials. You can see the the names. Can you see the names, John?
It's just about seeing it. It's fantastic. It looks like a really nice book. I really like that picture. You've got your hand over it now, but the celebration picture for you scoring the
Yeah.
cup final goal. It really embodies your career. It's a fantastic looking book, and can't wait to get a copy.
Yeah, I love the spine, John. I really do, because the spine I think is great. It just shows you all my clubs.
That's a good selection
Yeah.
of clubs, that Jim. But I'd just like to thank you anyway. Thanks very much for spending the time talking to us today. It's obviously I've enjoyed looking at your memorabilia as well over your shoulder. You've got a nice little collection there, a little bit of a hall of fame for Jim McCalliog. And thanks to your good
Yeah.
lady Debbie for helping to organise this. Just one thing I'd like to mention before we go. And I'm going to see you in October at a dinner for the Edinburgh Supporters Club dinner on the 9th of October. And I know they're going to be raising money for many charities, including the Denis Law Legacy Trust. So it's nice to... it's going to be a bit of a reunion as well. I think you've got Martin Buchan, I think, is going to be there, and Brian McClare and a couple of other old boys. So look forward to that, Jim, and I hope you're looking forward to it too.
Yes, Peter Woods, who looks after the Manchester Reds in Edinburgh. I've been there a few things with Peter, and also Brian McClare has been there once. So it'd be nice to catch up with them guys. Like we say, Manchester United is a club for all over the world, and they even have their own Reds in Edinburgh, which I think is brilliant. But Peter and the people that are helping him, they do a lot of good work, and it's just nice that this is going to Denis Law's Trust Legacy. Part of the funds will go there. So it'll be a lovely night, and I'm really looking forward to getting my dicky bow on and having a bit of fun.
I'm looking forward to it as well, Jim, and don't forget to bring plenty of copies of your book, because I'm sure there's going to be lots of guys there who are going to be really looking forward to reading about the Jim McCalliog story. So don't forget, bring your books, and I'll see you on the October the 9th in Edinburgh.
Yes, October the 9th, Friday night. So yes, I will bring them along, John, and I'm really looking forward to the evening. And thank you very much, John, for doing the Zoom call with me to help promote my book. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jim. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.